Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me tonight here in our studio at Campaign for America. I appreciate you joining me this evening and hope all is well with you. It has been quite some time since we've been together. And just to give you a note that we will be on the last Thursday of every month. I'll be on this Thursday night live here with Tanner the day. So we're going to get back to you from time to time, even during the day sometimes, where we'll record it and give you some updates at night. I know a lot of you have. Now, you're telling me you have no sound. So that is troubling. All right, hold on, folks. Stand by. Let's see if we can get some sound here. All right. Do we have some sound? Okay, folks. Okay, good. We had some people who said they had no sound. Thank God we have some sound. When you're on live, you pray to God that everything goes okay. But thank you. Thank you for chatting with me and letting me know. All right, folks, I'm going to give you a few updates on what we're up to now and where we are with regard to Canada and some other very, very critical news items that you need to know. But first of all, folks, I want you to know that people have been in touch with me, sharing with me that there are people online selling products. That's right, selling products. For example, an American flag with my signature on it. They're selling products with items that we have regarding the Campaign for America logo. Folks, do not buy any of those products. We do not advertise other than through our broadcast or our website. Some people that did get in touch with me lost a substantial amount of money because they did buy some of those items. And unfortunately, those individuals who really scam them out of their money, they're not going to get their money back. So if you have anybody offering goods and services from us, it's not true. Please beware of that. Now, a couple of other things, folks. There are people, unfortunately, it's unfortunately we have to say this, but we want to protect the integrity of the cause for freedom, both here in the United States, in Canada, and around the world. There are organizations that are looking to make a lot of money off of the freedom movement here in the United States. I understand perhaps in Canada and in other countries. Again, be very, very careful who you contribute your money to. Check them out, look up, do some research on them, find out who they are, who's running the organizations. There's a lot you can find out about an organization if you do a little research. So just beware that there are people, and I'll just address those in the United States. There are people here in the United States who are profiteering off of the freedom movement. These individuals like to steal the narrative, the real narrative of you and I and others who are seeking to secure freedom, liberties, and individual rights across our countries. Again, just be aware of what's going on. Now, I have been asked to report on the SOS letters. All right, I've got some good news for you. To begin with, as you know, we did send our congressional representatives a 3-page summary of some of our findings and what we believe they need to look into and to address with regard to the Canadian government. Why? Because these particular issues have absolutely, without a doubt, affected our national security, and will continue to address our national security until such time we're able to make sure that the Canadian government in this case is addressed. I can't for the life of me figure out why the Canadian government would want to do things other than what would be right in the eyes of their people and in the eyes of the country that borders them to the south. Now, I'll tell you what we're going to do, folks. See this? We've got two websites. This is the one where you could go to thepatriotdesk.com, and you'll see a little barcode on top, a navigation code. Put commentaries, push that button where it says commentaries and documents. And then you'll see a whole lot of information we have up there and a lot of action we've taken over the past couple of years. When you see the one that says Letter to U.S. Congress, September 2023, that's the one you're going to want to click to see exactly what's in the letter that we sent to them. Also, tonight, we're going to publish something that I'm going to touch upon a little bit with you in a few minutes, and that is about a op-ed that I put out here in the United States regarding the Democrat Party. I'll tell you, they were fast and furious to come after us, and me in particular. And I'll share what actually occurred, why it occurred, and what our response is to that. But again, the SOS letter campaign, the Congresswoman Mickey Sherrill here in our district in which we're based, she actually received the information. We have Congressman Chris Smith from Ocean County, New Jersey, who is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and of course, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Mike McCall from Texas. They have all been sent that information. Those are key people in the United States Congress, and we already got a response from Mickey Sherrill that she received it, and we're waiting to hear what their response is going to be after they read what we have in that summary. Now, keep in mind, folks, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're going to be very patient. We got a lot of problems here in the United States. As you know, I'm going to share with you some of those problems that we're facing and what we're doing as an organization to help address those problems. But regardless of what we're facing here in America, I made a pledge to you. We've kept every pledge. We're going to continue to keep our eyes on Canada and help the people in Canada to preserve their freedom, to preserve their liberties, and to preserve their individual rights. I've said that once. I'll say it again. We are not going to turn our back on Canada. We're going to make sure that we do what we said we would do, as we are doing with the Communist China, the freedom fighters in Communist China. We're a lot of behind the scenes going on. We're helping them out. And there are some other countries that we're helping people, at least in an attempt to preserve their freedom. Now, you might ask, well, what are you doing? Well, what we're doing is, and we're finding it's becoming very, very effective, is to broadcast our live streaming worldwide. And people are watching it worldwide because we could actually tell that they're reposting it, they're restreaming it, whatever they're doing. We are getting letters, messages, emails from people in Europe, Australia, and other countries around the world. And we're going to continue to do that. Now, by our broadcasts, by our printed media, and by us speaking here in the United States, what are we doing? We're heightening public awareness. No one had any idea, folks. Believe me when I tell you this. You can check this out yourself. No one, at least as far as I know, in this country, the United States, had any idea what was going on in Canada until such time we here at Campaign for America started to broadcast a year and a half ago. And why did we start to do that? And I'll always say this, two things. One, the truckers' convoy in Canada made a lasting mark, not only here in America, but around the world. That truckers' convoy and the way the Canadian people behaved within the framework of the law, kind. There was no outlandish rioting, burning of buildings, and assaulting of cops. None of that went on as far as we know, and we believe that none of it did go on. Because what we do know, and we did evidence to the members of Congress that we wrote to, is that based on what we've seen, we believe that the Trudeau government unleashed their police without any bounds against the people. Now, somebody gets out of line, you arrest them. You don't abuse them. You don't beat them. You don't hit them over the heads with nightsticks. You don't run them down with cars or horses. You arrest them if they break the law. If they don't break the law, well, you don't go arresting them. So we're going to see how all this plays out with our Congress. I could tell you some of the information that we will provide them when they are asked would not fly in the United States. would not fly in the United States of America. With regard to civil rights and constitutional rights, a lot of what we saw went on in Canada. Apparently, that's your laws there. Okay. So I can't say one way or the other if the government was not enforcing their laws. But the laws don't make what they're doing is right. So that's going to be our theme as we move forward. But we're going to continue to do what we must do to help the people of Canada and make sure that our security here in the United States is secure. One thing that caught our eye, and I know will catch the eye of our congressional representatives, is what that, I guess your foreign minister, her name escapes me right now. So one of you have it, please put it up on our chat room. Malia is her last name. When that individual actually went out and said that they had a plan to deal with the United States of America if the conservatives, me, all right, conservatives, win the presidency and the Congress in 2024. Now, what in the world is she talking about? So you're going to deal with the United States of America, all right? Now she is an individual that represents the Trudeau government, right? She's going to deal with the United States of America. They're setting up plans to deal with us if our government goes, in her words now. Now, here's where the rub is. Where if our government goes extreme right, well, what is extreme right in her eyes? What is extreme right in Trudeau's eyes, who likes to use those two words, extreme right? I'll tell you what extreme right is. Extreme right is, in their eyes, people like moms and dads who go to school board meetings here and who protest what's going on in their schools, who are protecting the children that they have going through these schools. Extreme right are individuals in the United States of America who are protesting within the framework of the law, which he doesn't see, that is Trudeau and this whoever foreign minister is. Extreme right is an individual or a group of people who will not be communist. Now, folks, I know they hate that word, believe me. Now, in a few minutes, I'll tell you how bad it got here, at least with me and this organization, when I use that word communist toward the Democrat Party. But the fact of the matter is, anybody who is not in line with a communist ideology these days in the 21st century are extremists. That's the way it is. But I won't call them extremists. I'll call them what they are. They're communist. As simple as that. But in the United States of America, we're dealing with them. And I'll share with you in a few moments how we're doing that. And in Canada, the people, I'm sure, are dealing with them. So far, I understand there's been more protests in Canada. There's been marches. But so far, it's been peaceful. Melanie Jolie, I think that's her name. Thank you, Grace. Melanie Jolie. That's the individual who in her speech or talk or whatever to the press decided to come against the United States of America. That's exactly what we've been telling our government. These people, and I'm talking about the leaders in Canada, need to get their heads examined. They really do. Because what they're doing to the people in Canada, I said that's a domestic issue. We don't have any intention to get involved in the domestic politics and the government of Canada, other than to heighten the awareness of the people in this country as to what's going on there. I believe the people of Canada, those individuals, meaning you who are listening and others throughout your country, are intelligent. You know what's going on, and you know what you have to do in order to deal with the problems you're facing, and you're doing it. So far, you've all been working within the framework of the law. As far as I can see, so far the people of Canada have been very busy getting information out, either through our broadcast or others around the world. And the world is responding. You got Christine Anderson at the EU responding. You're going to have more political leaders as we move down the road here in America responding. And soon enough, folks, you're going to see some of these political leaders here, and I hope and believe are going to come out publicly. So that's where we are with the SOS letter campaign. I've got nearly 50,000 right over there, okay, not far from me. They're going to stay there until we start getting responses from the congressional representatives, and they're going to stay there because at one point the press is going to ask me to produce them, and I've got them. I can produce them. So that's with regard to what we're going on with our SOS letter program, and we're going to move forward and continue to do what we've been doing by heightening public awareness as to what's going on in Canada. Now, listen to this one, folks. Now, Trudeau, he came out a couple of days ago, and he committed Canada again, our northern neighbors, all right, to a long-term war as long as it takes to support Ukraine. Now, that's what he did. Well, when I heard him say that, I asked the question to myself, with what? Is he ready to commit Canadian troops to that war? Is he ready to send billions of dollars? And I know he's sending money to Ukraine as we are, but is he ready to send billions of dollars more? What's he mean that he's going to stay with Ukraine until the last breath, all right, until the last shot is fired? Because the problem he's going to face is, number one, I don't believe the United States is going to last until the last breath of that war. Right now, the United States Congress is looking to block funding or at least limit funding to Ukraine. The American people are fed up with this. We're fed up with spending billions and billions of tax dollars in an endless war. I've said time and time again, we have done this, and it was in Vietnam, and it ended up 50,000 plus American young men and women killed in action and hundreds of thousands wounded. For what? For what? The American troops in Vietnam won every battle. That's a fact, folks. It is the politicians who sent the money, who sent the aid, who sent the weapons, and then sent the blood of our young men and women there who surrendered that war. And the same thing is going to happen here in this war with Ukraine if we decide to put an end to it. And you know how we put an end to it? We stop sending the arms. We stop sending the ammunition. We stop sending the money. It's a European problem. Let NATO deal with it. In fact, here we go for part two regarding Trudeau. Did he not see what we all saw? The press release, if you will, that Poland sent out? They're done. Poland's done. They stepped away. They said no more. They're not sending any more aid, nothing to Ukraine. They're done with it. Poland, they're in NATO. And expect as time goes on, perhaps the domino effect begin to take place where those countries in Europe don't want to have anything to do with this. It's draining their economies. Their people are against it. And you got Trudeau out there grandstanding, telling the world, well, we're going to back you, Mr. Zelensky. Now, one might say, well, how do you feel that way? Why do you feel that way, Lieutenant? Well, I'll tell you why, because the evidence speaks for itself. Zelensky was here in the United States at the UN, met with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and wanted to speak, wanted to address the United States Congress. Now, many of you in Canada may not have gotten that news, but he did ask, and McCarthy said it's not going to happen. So where does Zelensky go? He runs up to the Canadian Parliament. And those guys give him a standing ovation 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's all right. Go ahead and do it. But getting back to Trudeau's promise, I'd like to know how he's going to keep it. I don't think he has 1 million troops. I don't think he has the weapons we have. I don't think he has any of that. In fact, I don't even believe he has public backing to do that, as here in the United States. The Biden administration does not have the public backing to stay in a war with Ukraine. So, folks, the fact of the matter is that you all in Canada, we here in the United States, we've got two leaders that speak for themselves, speak for their special interests, speak for their party, but they're not speaking for the people, as far as I'm concerned. So we're dealing with it here. Joe Biden is in trouble. His son is truly under now, thank goodness, a real investigation. He's been indicted. More indictments are coming. Democrats are going down rather rapidly here. You're not getting all of that. A New Jersey state senator, Menendez, here in the United States, in my state, in New Jersey, was indicted for bribery and corruption. He's on the Foreign Relations Committee. I think he's a chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. I had some bribery dealings with Egypt, of all places. Got caught. And now the Democrats are demanding he resign. He's digging his heels in, but, corrupt people, as I tweeted out, 38 years in law enforcement, everyone I've arrested, every single person I've arrested, well, the devil made me do it. I didn't do it. He did it. She did it. I have nothing to do with it. So Senator Menendez is saying the same thing. And then the guy has the audacity to play the race card. When in doubt, play the race card. He sends out a press release that this is a political prosecution because I'm Latino. I mean, come on, give me a break. But remember what I've been saying, folks. I believe me, and I say this based on what I've read in the Bible. Remember, I've shared that with you. Every single person who's corrupt, who's a tyrant, gets caught, and they end up going down, and they go down hard. So here in the United States, Menendez is the first of many, I think, that are going to go down. Whether they're Democrat or Republican, if they're corrupt, they got to go down. In Canada, in China, in every country in the world, tyrants end up going down. Takes a little time, but they do get prosecuted and they do go to prison. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll let you know about that. To sum these two things up, one, they all get caught. And two, Zelensky, I believe he knows his days are numbered. And by the way, the Ukrainians did exactly what I said I believe that they should not have done. And I believe Biden is behind it because perhaps, I don't have proof of this, perhaps what happened overnight within the past 24 to 48 hours, I believe that our country may have had their fingerprints over a massive, massive military attack on Sevastopol in the Crimea. Remember I said, folks, the worst thing Zelensky could do, for at least with regard to the United States involvement, is to attack Crimea. That's Russian territory. Now, one might say it's not. The Russians went in and took it. Well, do a little history. Think about a guy named Nikita Khrushchev. Think about a guy named Obama who was in office. Let it all go. The Russians had it for a long time. There was peace there. It was quiet. I won't get into the history of that whole thing, but the fact of the matter is Zelensky's military decided to attack the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol and did a lot of damage there. The Russians responded a few hours ago, and it wasn't pretty. I'm bringing this to your attention because there's a escalation going on, something I said a long time ago, an escalation of this war going on. And my guess is, and it's a guess, all right, but based on what I'm beginning to see, if Zelensky is thinking by doing what he's doing with regard to striking on Russian territory, that it's going to end up bringing NATO into the war, because the response at some point, the response is going to be catastrophic from Russia. I think Putin's only going to take so much. Look, the guy, he's going to take so much, and then he's going to unleash everything. And if Ukraine believes that they could push Putin to that point where he's going to unleash everything, well, Zelensky is going to believe that then NATO is going to get involved. The United States will send heavy weapons in. The United States will go to a ground war with Russia, and on and on and on. If that's his strategy, our Congress better wake up and realize what's going on here. We cannot win a war in that part of the world, period. It's not going to happen. We tried to win a war in Southeast Asia 10 years later. As I said before, we lost that war. The United States of America right now, in my view, is not in a position to get involved in any ground conflict with anybody. The NATO countries, go to it. You've got weapons. You've got troops. It's in your backyard. Leave the Canadian military alone. Leave the United States military alone. Leave us alone on our side of the world. We got enough problems on our southern border, and I get to that in a minute. And now we're finding out we've got problems on our northern border as to who's coming across that border. Innocent, good, God-loving, God-fearing Canadians can't get across our border without passports, without vaccinations a couple of years ago, and on and on and on. But illegals could get across the border. Some who may be terrorists. Get a load of that, folks. And I'm not talking about the Mexican border. I'm talking about the Canadian border. I'll tell you what, we've got to keep our eyes on the southern border and the northern border. And I'll tell you, you take your eyes off of this stuff and we're going to get into trouble, and we are. Now, regarding the southern border, I am in full support. I think I mentioned this before any political leader did in this country, of using the United States military to destroy the cartels in Mexico. Why not? They're at war with us. They're crossing our border. They've killed some Americans down in Mexico near our border, and they believe they may have killed one or two on our soil. So the fentanyl and the drugs coming across our border, to me, that's as powerful as a weapon with a bullet in it. So it's time to use the full weight of the United States military to destroy the drug cartels. But the Mexican president says, whoa, wait a minute. You're not going to do that. Really? We're not going to do that. Look, the Mexican government, as far as I'm concerned, is corrupt. But our solution to corruption always is money. Send money to Mexico, send money here, send money there. In fact, why not send money to our own government leaders, like Menendez and others? Give them money, they'll keep quiet. Give them money, we'll be fine. Well, it's not working out very well for us regarding Mexico. Now, I understand that the Republican candidates for president have decided, well, that's a good idea. Why don't we go out and use the full weight of the U.S. military and destroy the cartels? We can eliminate them in hours. And that puts an end to our drug problem and puts an end to the border crossings. And, as far as I'm concerned, the Mexican president could go fly a kite. He could go fly. He's nothing. He's worthless. He's done absolutely nothing to help in the drug war. You want me to tell you why, folks? Well, I'm not going to tell you why, because I don't have any proof. Maybe at some point we will, but you figure it out yourself. I'm sure you're smart enough to figure that one out. But we'll be dealing with that as we move along. Now, a couple of things here. Number one, I had issued a statement a few weeks ago that our elections here in the United States are coming in a few weeks. We're talking about state assembly races, state senate, school boards, mayors, et cetera, on a local and state level. But what I see happening with regard to these elections and the federal elections coming up next year is that the Republicans are beginning to go down a road of committing what I call political suicide. As the Democrats are amassing their power base, and they are, we see what they're doing. The Republicans are busy calling each other names, backstabbing each other, not working well together in our Congress. I'm sure you all know what's going on there. That's not only happening in a federal level, but a local level and state level. That's all they're busy doing. They want to tell us how bad the other guy is, thinking that they could get our votes. It's not working. It is not working. I've gotten around this country, and I'm continuing to get around. When we leave here tonight, we're going to continue to go out beginning tomorrow morning and getting into these areas where we want to see Republicans elected. But I've said to the Republicans I've met, I'm talking about candidates, that the second you go after another Republican and call them names and denigrate them, we're through. We're not going to support you. I mean that from the presidency all the way down to local level, because it is hurting this country. It is hurting the United States of America. It is hurting the integrity and the dignity of the offices that they're running for. So the second we see an ad, we got a team of people looking at ads, looking at the internet. And I did this, folks. I did this the last election cycle. We were supporting a couple of people, and they went out and they used some vicious language against other candidates, and we withdraw support. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And you know what? I don't need anybody in office who could yell louder than the next guy. We need people in office who are going to bring stability to this country, stability to our states and our local governments. And more so than anything else, show the people that you will be a good representative of the people. Remember what the Bible says, by their fruits you will know them. Well, we got a lot of bad fruit hanging from the Republican tree. Now, of course, Republicans get upset. Why? Well, they get upset when I say these things. They tell me, well, you know what? You're criticizing your own party. You're a rhino. That's Republican in name only. You're this, you're that. You're a traitor. Well, folks, that's politics. But here's the problem with their name calling. Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, and Ronald Reagan would today be classified as rhinos and traitors because they decided to go down a road that would be in the best interest of the United States of America without compromising on conservative principles. But in the eyes of a lot of Republicans, if you're not supporting 1, 2, 3 particular individuals, well, you are worthless. But yet, getting around the country, I'm talking to a lot of Republicans that's saying, thank you We're getting up there and speaking to power. Thank you for speaking what we would like to. And when I ask them, why don't you speak out? They're afraid. They're afraid. They don't want to be called these names. They don't want to be ostracized, on and on and on. But we're in a position to do that because we're not afraid of nobody. Absolutely not. Because we know the power that the good Lord has given us through the people here. And so do our opposition. But also those who are in our same party, they seem to like the idea that name calling solves a problem. Bullying solves a problem. No, it don't. It hurts this country. This is why you'll never hear us go on the air and use vicious language and name calling, etc., against individual people. We will attack policies, but we won't do what I believe is wrong. So that's the state of the Republican Party now. I believe as we move forward, things are going to straighten out because grassroots America, I mean the real grassroots America, not extremists to the left or extremists to the right. Here I go again. I said extremists to the right. Well, I like to speak the truth, folks. I don't know why politicians don't repeat some of the things I and others have said. We have extremists to the right in the Republican Party. We have extremists, obviously, in the Democrat Party. But we also have conservatives in the Republican Party, and believe it or not, conservatives who are independent and Democrat conservatives that are saying, look, maybe we could, meet halfway. Maybe we could talk and bring some stability. That's what people want. And that's what we're going to continue to do, regardless of the consequences. A deputy police chief in New Jersey who I met years ago, a great Christian man, once said to me, do the right thing, regardless of the consequences. Do the right thing, regardless of the consequences. And we're going to do the right thing. And we're going to continue to do the right thing. Because I believe when you do the right thing, the consequences come from way up there. I don't care what man says, but I certainly know I'm accountable to him. So those elections are coming up. Now, let's get to this other issue regarding what caused all the controversy here in the States, or at least here in this area, regarding an op-ed. That's an opinion editorial that I had published in newspapers. Well, go to that website, folks, right there. And I think you'll see right on the top, it's entitled, Now is Our Time. So here's what happens. Now is our time. I explained to the American people in that op-ed that now is our time to really stand up and to fight the Democrat Party. And I identified the Democrat Party as a party that is advancing the ideology of Marx, Lenin, and Stalin, that they are truly advancing an ideology that is communist in nature. Well, Democrats took exception to that. And they went off, and I know there's going to be a response next week in the same printed media. They went off and went on an attacked me, attacked Ronald Reagan. I mean, just went on and on and on. Okay. Got a lot of nasty emails and et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. That's politics. But I also, when I make statements like that, I back it up with facts. Fact number one, which I mentioned over and over again. What party is advocating getting rid of police departments? What party is advocating weaponizing the FBI, the Department of Justice? What party decided to go out through their Justice Department, call parents going to school board meetings domestic terrorists? What party decided to allow thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants come into our country and take over our cities? How about this, folks? Now, this is embarrassing, but I'm going to state it because you don't know this. 2 weeks ago, 500 pounds. This was reported in the media. 500 pounds of human waste was collected on the streets of the city of New York, where the illegals decided to camp out. New York is a disaster area. The mayor of New York is now begging for help. And by the way, those of you around the planet who are listening and who are watching what's going on here, know this, that the loudest voices from politicians who said, bring them in. We're going to have sanctuary cities, sanctuary towns. In fact, we'll have sanctuary states. We'll make the entire United States a sanctuary for those individuals coming from our southern border. Remember them saying that? Now they've changed their tune. They want to get rid of the illegal immigrants. Their cities are overrun. The people in the cities are going broke. Industry, businesses, corporations are leaving, and they're begging. They're begging for cops. They're begging for protection. They're begging for everything that they work so hard to get rid of. Well, my point is this. You asked for it, you got it. Now it's your problem, not ours. But down the road, we're going to have to do something as a country to deal with this. And the way you deal with this is very, very simple. On an individual basis, at this point, you got to look at every person that's come into this country and begin to deport every single person that came here illegally. That's what you got to do. Can it be done? Well, I don't know. Gotten pretty bad, but we'll see. But we've got to put our foot down, and we've got to build that wall. We got to make sure that wall goes up to prevent another 100,000 from crossing the border. But, Biden says everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine, people. Everything's fine. Economy's booming. Can you imagine he's saying the economy's booming? I mean, this guy, he lost his marbles. But that's what we're facing. But I have hope in the American people, as I've had hope in the Canadian people dealing with their problems, the Australian people dealing with their problems, and on and on and on. So now we have the liberal politicians on the run here. You're not getting these reports. They are actually on the run, folks. One by one, liberal political leaders across this country, began here in New Jersey this morning, are calling for the head, if you will, of Senator Menendez, their buddy who's been indicted. They know he's a liability. One by one, they're beginning to desert Joe Biden. Now, you haven't heard that, have you? Democratic National Committee is looking for somebody, anybody to run. They know that if Biden runs, Harris runs, and a strong Republican runs, well, Biden loses. So the fact of the matter is that they've got a problem. They've got a serious problem. They know it. Now, who are they going to pick? Well, Newsom, right, the governor of California who destroyed that state, he's been mentioned, but you know what? Ain't going to happen. Michelle Obama's been mentioned. Ain't going to happen. So the Democrat National Committee has a problem. And you know what? Believe it or not, they just may say, well, you know what? We'll roll the dice. If he loses, we need to take the Senate and we need to take the Congress, the House of Representatives. The fact of the matter is that we have to be absolutely sure that we have candidates who could win and who could beat the Democrats. And a lot of polling is telling us it's going to be a very difficult time over the individuals that we have now running for president, every single one of them. We're going to have a very tough time. So we have to go down this road, and we have to make sure that we use our heads and we begin to select people that are running for Congress or the Senate or the presidency that can beat them. Because, folks, they're going to pour everything they got into this election. And it's going to take a very, very strong party. I've said this over and over again. No one man or one woman, all right, no Congress, no Senate are going to win and save this country. The people will. The people of this country will save the United States of America with their prayers and with their help from God and with their actions within the framework of the law. So when I hear people say, well, we have to depend on so-and-so, this person has to get elected no matter who they are, and we're going to win. Well, everything that we're seeing goes against that. This is going to have to be a team effort from the White House to the Senate to the Congress, right down to the ground, the people on the ground. That is exactly where we're headed. And that's good news because the party from the bottom up is finally coming together. But we need, just so you get an understanding what's happening here in America, what we need in order to win are independents. We need them. And we need Democrat conservatives. And we have to have candidates that could draw them to electing a Republican come November of 25. So keep an eye on that, folks, and watch what's going on. And for my American friends, who are Republicans, if you've got people in the party, in your local parties, who want to express their views and who believe in something, don't call them names, for goodness sakes. Don't call them rhinos and things like that. I mean, why are you doing that? Aren't we the party that accepts everybody? We're inclusive. Aren't we the party that says, come on in, we will debate and discuss in civility together these critical issues affecting our country? And here's what gets me, folks. I believe that the Republican Party in the United States, and maybe some of you see that in the Conservative Party in Canada and elsewhere, I believe that most people in our party believe in the Judeo-Christian values and those biblical principles in which this nation was founded upon. So if we believe that, what are you doing calling names? What are you doing bullying people, denigrating people? That's not the party that I worked so hard for. The party of Abe Lincoln, the party of Ronald Reagan, the party of the people that stood up over the years to make sure that we remained the party of the people and brought everybody into the tent. So please keep that in mind. And that's to my fellow Americans. So the Democrats went off. They went off, boy, and they started writing stuff. And, who are you to say we're communists? How dare you this and dare you that? Well, I did. And I'm going to do it again, because that is exactly what you are. When you want to defund the police, when you want to cripple law enforcement, corrupt our courts, corrupt our judicial system, corrupt our schools, and on, that is exactly what you are. And by the way, the next question, well, how could you say you're a Christian and say these things? Well, because I'm a Christian, I say these things. Because I believe in biblical principles of hearing the call, whether it come from Washington, whether it come from my local mayor, whether it come from anybody, but hearing the call of God above all things to get involved. Bible says, put your faith to work. What is it? What is it for a very bright light to be put under a lampshade? So if God's given you a gift, you go out and you use that gift to fight like Joshua did, like King David did. May I go down the list? All those men and women in Old Testament and New Testament times, and even today in our day and age, at least in America since 1776. Do you hide that? No, you don't. You use everything that God's given you within the framework of the law to fight the good fight. And at the same time, folks, you're protecting your character. You're protecting the dignity and honor and the integrity of the offices that you have in your life, the station God's given you in your life, and you become a role model for your children and the rest of the people who are fighting the good fight of faith. Again, a lesson from the Canadian people and the truckers' convoy. As far as I'm concerned, they protected the integrity of the gifts God gave them. They protected the integrity, actually, of their government, because the people are the government. They did a lot of good. Here in the United States of America, I'll tell you, we got a lot of good Americans who went out and protested peacefully and quietly within the framework of the law. Parents who went to school board meetings spoke up. A lot of marching against communist ideology, a lot not reported because doesn't have that action that the media wants. But a lot of live streamers reported it. I'm proud of the American people who are standing up and fighting a good fight of faith. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to do this, folks. And at the end, like I said, they lose, we win. All right, we're going to be wrapping things up. So here, www.thepatriotdesk.com. When we hang up here, you go to that website. You could look at all the things we've been putting there. Secondly, this is very important. And I'm going to come out soon with an opinion editorial on this. I spoke Thursday night. My wife and I went to a Republican meeting, a Republican fundraiser, all right, helping some candidates to get elected. I was asked to speak, and I didn't make a political speech. I shared with the people this one fundamental fact all of us need to know, especially all of the candidates. There are a couple dozen candidates there. I told them, I'm not a preacher, not an evangelist. I'm a political figure here in the United States that's doing the best I could to help my country. And I've been in politics a long time, but if anything I've learned on this journey of politics is that without God, without Christ, without the principles in which He laid down through the Holy Spirit in that Bible from Genesis to Revelation, without that, we're done. You want to stay away from temptation? The Bible. Corruption? The Bible. Want to be one who will uphold life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? The Bible. Doesn't mean you have to carry a Bible everywhere you go. I'm not saying that. You're in politics, you go out there. But what is it? What is the big problem that you in politics can't go out and you make your wonderful speech on how all the great things you're going to do for people, but maybe leave a little room for all the great things God will do for the people? This is why we've been successful here at Campaign for America. This is why we continue after 2 years of being on the air. We have expanded. Our influence is growing. This is why. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with political people behind us. There are no corporations behind us. No, we don't have thousands of dollars. In fact, we don't even have hundreds of dollars. And I'm not asking for money. I'm not going to do that, folks. But I'm telling you what I'm going to ask you for is to put the power God's given you to work. And that is the power of prayer. Just ask him in your prayers to help supply our needs. Because when I go out and when people ask me, how on earth, with nothing, did Campaign for America get to where it is today and continues to grow? I'm going to go out as I have yesterday, the day before, and in the future. I'm going to go out and I'm going to protect the legacy of God Almighty, because that legacy says that he will supply all our needs. And that's not just for us, it's for you, in your family. You got financial troubles, problems with your family, you're worried about your nation, fear not, for I am with thee, says the Lord. He's not going to leave you, and he's not going to forsake you. And believe me, we're not going to leave you either. That's it, folks. So look, Thursday night, 7 p.m., I'll be on with Tanner Naday from Canada. We're going to give you an update on our monthly broadcast. Hey, from time to time, I'll come on the air. I'm thinking of holding a Zoom meeting. Maybe we'll have a little roundtable discussion with each other as we're on and off the road. We're going to be quite busy from now until November, but we're going to be around. All right, folks? But just remember this. Please, pray, pray, pray. People laugh. You pray. What's that going to do? Well, read the Bible and see what prayer can do. In fact, challenge God. Challenge him. Challenge him. Say, hey, look, I'm going to pray. I want to see if you're going to take care of this. Come on, God, let's see. Well, he will, but maybe not in the way that you want him to, but he will. All right, folks, God bless you all. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. Thank you so much. Keep us in your prayers as we will keep you in your prayers. And let me find something here. This is really neat. And remember, at the end of this journey, they lose and we win. And what are we going to be singing? Let freedom ring. God bless you all. Have a great night. Thanks again for joining me.